Okay, guys.
I'm eating an apple.
So, so Sam's just finishing his apple. We've got ourselves a couple of coffees, and we're going to shoot the shit for a bit.
Yes.
Not very structured, not very neat, quite chaotic. See our little whiteboard there? See our whiteboard? A little bit chaotic looking. So first of all, let's just see who's on, and we'll do the usual. Can you hear? Can you see?
Let me have a look on my...
Leroy.
Who's that?
Lee Hickey.
Lee Hickey? Do some work. He's probably on the golf course.
Doing nothing.
Doing nothing. Let me get my Facebook up here. Where are my groups?
Bring it up on there and see what we're like.
Facebook always changes on a laptop. I'm not very good at it. Here we go.
I'll tell you what's better. Hi guys. Who's that? Someone called Ollie Wayne.
Aha!
Where's he?
It always happens. Whenever I do a live video, Ollie's the only one watching. Everyone else has got better things.
Can you hear us all right, Ollie?
I'm just wondering if you can keep it down here.
What's the sound quality like?
It's really good from where I am. It's almost like you're next to me.
Right.
Just losing it on and off work, chaps. Oh, tossing it off
Tossing
in
it off
work.
at work.
Completely read
Just
that
like you
one.
tossed it off in the gym this morning. So, the purpose of today, obviously, there's a couple of questions that some of you guys have asked. Well, Michelle Meadows is here.
Oh, what's she saying?
She said,
Oh, brilliant.
So, Andy, Natty, and Christian, okay, I'll answer your questions at the end, but just part of our kind of reopening and getting back into kind of doing what we do, these Whiteboard Wednesdays are an opportunity for you guys to ask any questions, okay, and us to kind of communicate with you guys and answer those things, but also to kind of, like we used to do, some of our older members who are in here, when we used to do them on a Friday, we just used to touch base with people and just let you know either what's been going on, any upcoming things, that kind of stuff, to keep you guys in the loop, all right? So hopefully you can skive off work for long enough. If not, come back and watch it at another time, all right? So part of what triggered today's kind of topic was just speaking to people outside the gym when they kind of walk past or walk in of an evening when everything's, when we're coaching and you guys are training. And them asking kind of, what it is, what you do.
Is it CrossFit?
Yeah, is this a CrossFit gym? Is it a commercial gym? What is it? What is it for me? What can you do for me type thing? So it was just an opportunity to actually, we've not really unpacked this too much with you guys before. And I think whilst we're kind of starting on our kind of new path, really, with kind of one location and getting back into it after the horrific year that obviously 12 months and the last 12 months that everyone's had, and just kind of letting you guys into a little bit about the history of RMF Fitness, kind of what we're about, how it's come to be the way it is right now, and kind of why that's important to you guys here, but also to people who are probably a bit new. Obviously, there's quite a few people in here now on their kind of 28-day program, just starting out, and it's we want to make you guys understand like what the inner workings, I suppose, of what we're about. So I think I'll use Uncle Russell here as kind of a soundboard, just to, like, obviously RM, for those that don't know, is Russ Meadows, okay? So Russ founded RMF Fitness quite a while back now. He's getting on. And where did RMF Fitness come from, and what started it all?
Yeah, so the relevance of this, guys, we're gonna have an overview, is that when me and Sam are talking and people come in and they ask what we do, we've done a lot of different things and we've been through a lot of transition that some of you guys might not be aware of, particularly like the newer people. If you've joined in the last probably 4 years, you're probably not necessarily aware of a lot of this stuff and a lot of the different sort of identities and different programs that RMF Fitness has trialed and essentially we've kept the best bits and discarded the other bits. So started a long time ago in 2004, and it was one-to-one personal training. So it was just myself in a commercial gym, and the diary quickly gets full when you just do one-to-one training.
When you're good.
When you're good. All right, I don't say that. From there's got to be some progression. So the next logical step was to hire an AstroTurf pitch and start to run these 28-day programs. So believe it or not, the 28-day programs that 90% of you lot will have come in on, or the 30-day trial, which is similar, started with that concept of let's bring people in, let's teach them the basics, let's monitor them over that 28 days, and then let's develop into some type of continuation program. So yeah, from there it was onto an AstroTurf pitch, doing a weigh and measure at the start of the 28 days and at the end of the 28 days, giving nutrition advice. So you're taking the best bits of personal training, but you're applying it to a group situation. From there it then moved into its own premises. So at the time I was just telling you about the AstroTurf pitch, that was at DW Gym using a soccer dome pitch, and once we got our own premises in 2009, the big thing then is the classes exploded. So people started to want to come, not just because I want to drop a clothes size, not just because I want to lose a bit of weight, but people wanted to come because they wanted to smash a punch bag, they wanted to swing a kettlebell, they wanted to use a battle rope, and they wanted to do all this type of like functional fitness that wasn't really a thing before that time. So from there, the next kind of progression was that we identified that circuit training and classes have got a limitation in that if you're just using your own body weight and lighter kettlebells and hitting punch bags, we need to use some resistance training because we're missing quite a big component of getting people stronger, which makes people look good, which has got all its benefits that we'll not go into now. But we identified that. So we affiliated with CrossFit. We actually ran a CrossFit affiliated gym for a period of time.
So Rich, who's commented,
Yeah.
he said he's bought 8 pairs of the wrong shoes because he wears CrossFit shoes all the
Did he
time.
really put that?
Yeah, technically it used to be, there was RM Fitness CrossFit used to be, or RM CrossFit used to be a thing back in the day. In fact, I remember when I first started, my hoodie had a CrossFit
RMF,
thing,
on
the
your profile
RMF
picture, yeah.
CrossFit down the side, sorry.
I like it. No, that's good. So the next thing from there, this is when Sam came in. So we're now talking 2013. We moved into a huge premises in Wigan, and it had sort of 2 sides to it. So we kept one side for the classes, and the other side was for like a commercial gym that we called the Strength Lab. And our thinking behind that was combining the best bits of what's good about commercial gyms. There's some good aspects of commercial gyms. Are flexible, lots of different weights, types of machines you can use, lots of good aspects. So we ran that for quite some time. So we had personal training that could happen in either end of the gym, but probably predominantly in the commercial gym Strength Lab area. And then on the other side, we had all the box fits, didn't we, and the boot camps and the classes. And at that time, 2013, it literally was just on like a massive upward curve, because you had people that would normally maybe go to spinning classes, aerobics classes. They'd never really seen this type of thing where you could go in and hit punch bags and do interval training on rowing machines, sleds, lots of body weight movements, these kettlebells, like we're saying. There's all these different movements and a different style of training. So the class side of things, just for being honest, the business just exploded and kind of ran away with itself on that side of the business. And I think when Sam came on board, I think having the 2 of us, and Sam's obviously got the way he thinks is really complementary to myself, and we're kind of like opposites and similar in different areas. And I think what Sam brought in then was like reflecting on what we're doing and making things better going forward, which is something that had happened, but the business model as it is now, things really changed when we got to a point, I think in 2000, probably 14 at this point, where we were like, maybe 14, where we're like, right, we're not doing all this different shit now. Okay, it's a bit like Apple, isn't it, where they offered like loads of different products, and I think it's the famous thing about Steve Jobs coming in and saying, no, we're just going to have like these limited amount of products. So what we did is we refined everything, and we said, right, we're not doing all these different classes. We're not going to allow people as commercial gym access. They've got too much choice. We were doing challenges, which were really popular then. We're just going to focus on this program. And this program, what you guys are doing now, really started in 2014. It was called Evolution 365. And do you want to tell them, because obviously you're involved with that, do you want to tell them a bit more how did we And why did we do that?
So the why is, for me, it's massive. And like we're in this industry and we do what we do. And Russ started all those years ago because we want to help people. And sometimes if someone comes to you and you've got too many choices, you can't put them in the right area. Okay, so if someone came in and they're like, right, I just want to do classes, but in reality, for their results, we know for most people should be doing predominantly strength training. But they're like, I don't feel comfortable going in your commercial side of the gym, and I don't want to necessarily invest as much as it might cost to do, say, 3 personal training sessions a week. So they would then go and do your class type stuff, which is cool. It's dose specific, so like maybe like what we do on a Saturday type session. But they would do that, say, 3-4 times a week. And that, in reality, we knew that deep down that's not right for that person. We're doing them a disservice, not on purpose, but it's like they've come to us with their goals. They're now doing that 3 or 4 times a week. That's not, if they came to me for personal training, that's not what I would do with them. I would do more strength training stuff with them. So that was one aspect of it. Then the other aspect was people who would do, say, the commercial gym side of it. They'd go in there and they'd be doing things wrong, or they'd be like, messing about on their phone for half a session or whatever. And it's like, well, they may as well be at, Pure Gym or DW or doing that there. Like, well, that's not what we're about. We want to help people get better.
Because we observed that in the strength lab, didn't we? People who were doing well with personal training, or even the classes, had intensity in the classes. They might not be doing the right thing. But then all of a sudden, 3 or 4 of them would say, oh, we'll meet at this time and we'll go and do our own thing in the strength lab. And we'd look across, wouldn't we, as coaches, and they're just they're just talking here. They're doing nothing, are they?
Yeah, they're doing nothing.
They're just not having any intensity.
Yeah.
And that was a big learning curve, wasn't it?
Massive. And even though there's quite a lot of you lot here who waffle a lot during your sessions, you're getting the intensity done, you're getting it done. And so we lost that side of it. And so that was one thing. And then the other side of the thing was the challenges. So granted, some of you guys are on a 28-day challenge right now, okay? And that's a foot into the kind of the gym and how we operate. But what we used to do is probably slightly longer ones. So we do like 8-week ones and 12-week ones, different things like that. And people would come in and they'd absolutely smash it for that period of time. Which is cool. There's nothing wrong with being aggressive or making short-term progress. But then they'd come to the end of their challenge and they'd stop. Or they'd then go and do nothing and wait until, they'd be like, oh, I'll wait till your next challenge. And then again, we're that born out of trying to help people and move people from A to B. And not everyone did. Some people would then continue and maintain and do really well. But quite a lot of people would fall into this cycle of, I'll just do multiple challenges over and over and over again. And that doesn't create a healthy relationship with training and nutrition and that kind of stuff, with that on it, off it mentality, no matter what you do, if you create that. So, whereas how you guys on the 28-day and all you members who've started on 28-day, most of you Manchester, to be honest, because a lot of this was done pre the kind of Manchester gym.
I think there's only a very small handful. So there's like Kate Philpott, I think Christian who's watching, I don't even think Rich Gray. I think it was a really first people through that door at this gym. I'm sure with Barrow, we did a 7-day trial or 14-day trial.
Yeah.
But even that was still a watered down version of the 28-day. It was still teaching people the mindset, teaching them the nutrition, teaching them our training philosophy. Yeah. So I think everyone here really has come
via kind
through that, haven't they?
Yeah, and that's what we want, no matter, like I say, with the challenge thing, the downside was people would then be like, you'd not see them for 3 months, and they'd be like, they'd message in and they'd be like, right, when's your next challenge starting? And be like, well, what have you done for the last 3 months? Or nothing. It's like, well, don't keep doing challenges. Like that should be a way to, well, get yourself going. We want to give people the skills to sustain that, as boring as that is for a lot of people. Is the reality is we've got to exercise and kind of eat well for the rest of our lives. We want to make sure that we're setting people off on the right path. And I did it in an Instagram thing on Saturday where I was saying, you guys are on a 28-day program now. I'd rather you lose less weight in these 28 days, but start to master the skills that are going to last you, so that in 6 months' time, 12 months' time, 18 months' time, you're still getting better, you're still making progress, you are having a life, you understand it all, because that can last you a lifetime then. And that for us is what we want to do in terms of helping people. So I think the evolution, and it was I remember distinctly, it was a very uncomfortable time when having to make, this was ripping a plaster off, and this was a massive change of like, right, we're not doing classes anymore because people are doing that too much, and they, you know, there's nothing wrong with it being a dose specific thing if you do it once, a couple of times a week or whatever, but if that's all you're doing, that's not right to help people with their training long term. So we basically stopped dead. We said on Monday, this is what's happening. There was
a bounty on my head in Wigan, wasn't there, at the time?
I thought, yeah, it was horrible.
I didn't think I was going to make it out alive.
So, and that's where, again, you've got that contrast of, you know, I remember that being a really difficult time for the business. It's very easy when things are just on this upward curve from a business perspective, because they're two separate things. They kind of need to work together. But if you're just about the business bit, then you don't care about helping people the most effective way. But then if you're
unfulfilled,
and then you're unfulfilled. And I think that's a perfect word. And I think it's making sure that we were creating something that, yes, it needs to work as a business, because, you know, we pay our mortgage and Russ needs to feed his kids sometimes. But on the flip side of the coin, it needs to be right to help people effectively. So,
and that, sorry to interrupt, that's a massive thing Sam brought in. It's a massive thing, is like that congruence between, right, somebody walks in that door and they've got goals. Everybody who walks in the gym's got a goal, otherwise they wouldn't walk in through that door and inquire. Okay, now if money was no object, time was no object, logistics was not an issue, how would we train that individual? What nutrition protocols would we apply? And what mindset stuff, okay? So, coming from that theory of wanting to help you guys, anyone that walks through that door, we need to make this group program as congruent as we possibly can to serve that purpose. So that we're not thinking, well, ideally we would train this person with weights and we would do this type of nutrition and we would do X, Y, and Z with this person to meet their goals. Okay, but because we own a circuit training franchise or it's a boot camp, we can't train them how we want, because our model of training is circuit training, which we know scientifically isn't going to get the best results possible, which is what we want to achieve.
Yeah, 100%. And that's massive. And I think that the beauty of where we've come from, and like you're saying about the reflection, was because we've done all of these things. It doesn't make those things bad. It doesn't necessarily mean that like doing classes is bad, or doing a boot camp or CrossFit is bad. It's just that we recognise that there's real positives in a lot of those things. So, you know, CrossFit, you've got like the community, a lot of you know.
I'll redraw that while you're talking.
Oh, yeah.
I'll rub it out.
Yeah, love it. A lot of emphasis on strength training, moving well, coaching properly, that kind of stuff. But then there's also downsides from our perspective for people we work with, where, you know, there's lots of really complicated movements, snatches, power cleans, those type of things, which are all great movements, but you need to be able to do them if you want to compete at kind of CrossFit. Whereas, you know, for most people who've been sat at a desk, their posture's not that great, who probably don't have time, half an hour, 40 minutes to warm up effectively to do those at the intensity needed, then there was a downside, and it only served a small amount of people. So if someone comes to us and say, I want to do CrossFit, there's nothing wrong. It doesn't make CrossFit bad, as much as you might joke about Richie's shoes. But there's you can go to a specific CrossFit gym if you want to do CrossFit, and that's cool. It doesn't make CrossFit bad, it's just not what we do and what we're passionate about. So we took good bits from that. The class side of things, so big atmosphere, music's on, getting sweaty, you know, you're not thinking, it's low skill movements, not really much heavy weight involved. You know, it releases endorphins. It gives you that kind of nice feeling, like on a Saturday or a Friday when you have a bit of a sweat on. You know, we give your partner a fist pump or a high five at the end, that type of stuff. So from a class perspective, so when we look at, you know, Barry's, F45s, those type of things, doesn't make them bad. It just means that from a results perspective, a pure results perspective, predominantly structured strength training is what we should be doing if that's what we're trying to get out of something. So again, it's dose specific. If we do that type of stuff every single day or 4 or 5 times a week, you're not going to get the best results. That's just a fact. So when we had people doing our box fits and boot camps, cool as they were, you know, I remember starting and there was 60 people in a room and it was carnage and people running around the edge. It was an amazing atmosphere. The music was bumping. It was great. That's great once or twice. If that's 3-4 times a week, then that's not going to yield the best outcome, and you're limited in your progress. So if you're doing bodyweight squats for a minute, there's only so many bodyweight squats you're ever going to be able to do in a minute, or burpees or whatever. And then you just get good at working for those times, and there's lack of progress, strength training, moving
It's
better.
not that short-term progress when you first start doing it, isn't it? Because it's new.
Yes.
So if you start doing anything, you're going to progress because it's new and it's outside your body's comfort zone. But then it's that again when we're talking about congruence. So a big thing Sam and I and the guys on the coaching team are all about. We're about that long term. Get 1% better. Do you know what I mean? Over a period of time. I'm always a white belt. I'm always learning. Not smash it for a short period of time. And you know, the training that we do and the mindset stuff and the nutrition has got to be congruent with being able to keep getting 1% better all the time.
Yeah, 100%.
So what we kind of came up with, I'm going to grab this.
Does it go the right way?
I hope so.
It's backwards.
Is it backwards on there for them?
Yeah.
So we've got this like Venn diagram, quite scruffily drawn. But if you imagine RM Fitness is kind of like here in the middle, and these are kind of like what other people's options might be around the outside. So, and also what's interesting is that these are the things that we have done and they've directly influenced us. So like I said, we started off by being a one-on-one company, okay? So there's positives and negatives to like one-on-one training, okay? And there's positives and negatives of all these different things, okay? This is us sat in the middle here, and we've took the best bits of this, okay? Because I'll not rattle them all off now, but there's a lot of good bits of one-on-one training, and there's a lot of bits that probably aren't so good, okay? And then when we look at classes, again, this is us here in the middle, okay? There's some elements good of classes, like you'd say, like the energy's really good, isn't it? In classes sometimes, the energy or that feel-good factor of just banging out loads of cardio and burpees and things like that. So you might find that that's like a Friday. We do that once a week on a Friday or on a Saturday or in a finisher, that type of feeling, okay? Commercial gyms have got positives and negatives, okay? So we've took the best of that. So we've done this. We started off here. We've done a lot of this stuff. We've had a commercial gym as part of RM Fitness, okay? Challenges. There's positives and negatives of challenges, okay? So we've took out the best bits and stripped out the negative bits. And then finally, I've wrote that twice. What was the other one there?
CrossFit.
CrossFit, yeah. So this is CrossFit. So again, positives and negatives of CrossFit. It's not all shit, okay? And we've took out, and this is us in the middle, okay? And we're sat in the middle because we've tried these things and we've took out the best bits and discarded the rest, and we've come up with our own thing that's here.
And I think with that, so obviously we still do one-to-one coaching, for example. So for some people, if you want to do CrossFit, go and do CrossFit. CrossFit's the thing to do. One-to-one training is probably the only other thing we really do. And what we find with that is it's like some people don't like the group stuff or whatever and just want to do one-to-one, that's up to them. But for you guys, one-to-one is valuable for if someone comes to an induction and they're completely brand new to everything and they've never done strength training before, and we feel that it might they might be unsafe, say, in the group sessions, we'd probably recommend to them, right, it's probably best you do like a month of personal training to start with, work one-on-one with one of the coaches, and we'll get you to a level where you can then do our group stuff properly. Then the other side of the coin is for you guys, so some of our members, like at times of the year, you might feel like you need a bit more accountability. So I feel like I want to be a bit more aggressive with my progress, or I've got an event, wedding, holiday, whatever, and I feel like I want a bit more accountability. So personal training can work for those things in addition to what you do with the group stuff. And it might be something that people do for shorter periods of time. So obviously with personal training, one of the limiting factors is the investment. So if you were to do 3 personal training sessions a week, it's going to be in excess of, £400 or £500 plus a month. Now, most people might do that maybe for a short period of time, but in reality, again, how long is someone going to be doing that? We want to help people for, get to a point where they're going to be, a couple of years down the line and still making progress and still enjoying their training. And I think that's the not the negative, but one of the probably barriers, I would say, to kind of the personal training side of things. Yeah. And also, there comes a point where it's you don't need someone stood over you. If you've got a good personal trainer, they eventually become redundant, or should become redundant, because they should have taught you everything you need to know, and you should be in a position where I feel confident on my own. You might continue with them because you like them and you get on with them, that's different. But,
or you might not fit in the box of the group training.
Yeah,
for some people,
some people just
some
prefer
people
to do one-to-one, or it might suit them to train where there's no one else in the gym, or that kind of stuff. So, yeah, and we're now at a point, and again, like I said, it doesn't mean we're perfect. We're always reflecting. There's always things that we think we can improve and can do better and want to do better and get feedback off people and that kind of stuff. But in terms of when we speak to people, it's trying to take the best of all those things, with always in mind is what's going to yield the best outcome for the people we deal with, who are usually quite busy because they've got lots of other stuff going on, be that career, family commitments, those type of things. It's like
social life.
Lockdown. Yeah, so they want the thinking almost taken out of it. I want to turn up. I want to know that I'm going to get coached. It's going to be safe. It's going to be effective. I can get in, get it done, and go. Rather than go to a commercial gym saying, not really know what I'm doing. Is it safe? I'm a bit scared of going over in the weights area, so I'll just go on plod along
Another
the
key
treadmill
thing
for
with
an
our
hour.
people is that, and also two other key things is that they're ambitious to a point of they don't just want to stand still with the training. That's our big thing, that you guys have nearly all got that in common, where you want to improve. Some people don't want to improve. If they can fit in the size whatever clothes, that's the only be all and end all to them. But we don't tend to attract people who just want to do that. Our people want to continually get better, and your journey's got its ups and downs. You get to a point where your strength's at a certain level and you want to get a bit fitter, and then you get there and you want to do this and you want to do that, and you get a bit of an injury or go through a stressful period and everything goes downhill a bit. It's not just a linear up, but you've got that desire to keep wanting to move forward.
Yeah.
And our people on the groups as well, which is what we're talking about. We watched that video, didn't we, with Arnie? It's like the environment.
Yeah, massive.
What do you think about the environment at the minute with the COVID regs?
So I think the COVID regs, I think one of the hardest, that's probably one of the most challenging things in terms of what we do that makes it hard. Maybe for some new people as well. I was speaking to someone about this the other day. Is so before COVID, you would train in 2s and 3s. So you'd come in and you're going to pair up with this person and you're going to do your squats together. And you change the bar so you get to know people a little better. And you encourage people to spot each other. Obviously that, for obvious reasons, has been removed for now. That is definitely something we would bring back in.
Yeah.
But we can at least still keep that with today's finishes, a bit of a tag team thing, Fridays, you give your partner a bit of a fist pump on the way out. So the environment's massive, and that probably more stems from probably our team sports background. So both myself and Russ played rugby to a relatively decent level.
Someone's better than me.
And Ollie,
I'd love to play together.
We'd have been horrendous.
It's just red
Not
card
9
every
and
week.
10, yeah, red cards every week. But that side of it is important as well, because the community element is, if you've had a shit day at work, if you come in here, there's going to be someone next year, and they might lift you up one day or push you up, come on, keep going, and we want that element as well. I think that probably the COVID measures have made that a little bit more of a challenge, but certainly something that all you guys in here, when someone's new, you welcome them. It's just brilliant, because everyone knows what it feels like to be, it can be a bit nerve-wracking coming in. Even this morning, Mikey pairing with Adam and stuff like that and looking after him. I think that's what we want, is that side of things, and that's probably where sometimes some of that CrossFit and some of the kind of classes type thing potentially are, that's a real plus of those type of things. So yeah, I think it's just just wanted to get across really kind of the journey we're on, and we feel like we're at another step now. So obviously, for those who don't know, we've no longer got the Wigan premises, but as disappointing as that is, it's an opportunity for us to narrow in and really improve what we do here and excel from this position, and we'll constantly review and try to improve and kind of tweak things. And it's just, we wanted to give you guys who've maybe either not been here long enough, that long, or quite new to it, or even people who have been and maybe just don't know, kind of our kind of philosophy, why we do what we do, why it's structured the way it is. And it's a real hard thing for us on a front end marketing type stuff. Go back to the original reason we thought we'd do this video, when someone walks past, is this a CrossFit gym? Is this whatever? Because they all do a really good job of putting themselves in that box. And I think our box is it's very hard to just go, boom, we are this. But just know that it's a synergy of a lot of these things, because we've experienced a lot of those things as a fluid kind of thing over the years, where we've tried to adapt and take the best bits and get rid of the bits that maybe don't sit right with us, or when we're doing things, so that we can create something that people can excel with and hopefully enjoy and make really good progress with.
Yeah, 100%. No, hope that's been helpful. I'm just going to read out, I think we've got 3 questions. I'll read them out to Sam.
Go on. Right.
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, they are on here. So there's only 3 of them. So do go up and down.
Who first?
Natty first.
So, Natty Ashcroft.
You might need to click see more.
Oh, yeah. Okay, right. I know you've probably been... Right, so I hope I'm not too late to ask this, but can you talk about the science behind why we need to eat a lot of protein? I know you've probably been through this when I started, but I see so much stuff on protein on social media, online in general. I feel like I have a lot of wires crossed and just want to know the basics again. Thanks. Great question.
Perfect. Right. So, protein is a macronutrient. You got protein, fat, and carbohydrates as your main macronutrients. Now, protein is essential for health. If we don't consume protein, eventually we die. Same with fat. Fat is essential for health. So protein is made up of amino acids, and some of them, you will have heard this, essential amino acids, so i.e. they are essential. Same as you have essential fatty acids, so fat is essential. Protein in the context of why we would encourage someone to consume a higher protein diet, or certainly above. So when we talk about your RDAs, your recommended daily intakes from, say, government kind of nutrition guidelines, that's the bottom line, so you don't become deficient. That's not a target. That is, if it goes under that, we're going to, over time, become deficient, which is like 0.8 grams per kilo of body weight. So for someone who's active, trying to maintain a healthy body composition and recover properly from training, then we need to eat slightly more protein, because it's essential for growth and repair, so looking after our muscle tissues and recovery. From a nutrition perspective, in terms of adherence to our energy balance, so calories, protein is satiating, so it fills you up a little bit more. So if you have slightly more protein within your diet, you will likely snack or feel hungrier other times, so it can help you adhere to your kind of calorie intake. And the kind of the final thing with protein is that from a muscle building perspective, is it's something that's a massive building block. So amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. That's what they're made up of. So it can help us with that. The thermic effect of protein, last thing on it, and why it's important. So in terms of increasing your metabolism, for want of a better phrase, it has a high thermic effect, so it requires a lot of energy or calories to break down protein as well. So the thermic effect of food is part of how many calories we burn, so it can actually increase our energy expenditure a little bit as well. I've put under your question, Natty, a couple of infographic-y pictures over the just the last 30 years of protein research kind of summarised. So for guys in here, 1.8 to 2 grams per kilo is about right to aim for if you're targeting your protein as a daily intake.
So let's rewind that for the newer guys, maybe some of you guys on the 28th day.
Yeah.
So how would, if we go real basics, say someone's not watched any of the videos in the membership site, how would they work maybe that out? Like, what would they do to work that out?
So so obviously at the start we will send you a guide, i.e. this is your calories and how to set your macronutrient in MyFitnessPal. But so you would take your body weight, okay? So let's say 80 kilos and times that by 1.8 to 2. So let's say 2. So 160 grams of protein would be my target. Now that's not 160 grams of chicken breast, okay? So chicken breast would contain 25, 30 grams of protein roughly, right? So there's 30 grams of protein-ish in, say, a small chicken breast. Now, then times that by however many to get to 160, okay? So obviously you don't have to just eat chicken, but there's the best source of protein, animal products. Now, so chicken, fish, lean meats, dairy, they're often high in protein. In terms of people who maybe don't go down or want to go down the vegetarian, vegan avenue, then you've got things like pulses, lentils, those type of things. Just be careful, obviously, with those when they often contain high either carbohydrate and high fat content, so it can be quite high calories. So things like nuts and that type of stuff, they're not really a source of protein, they're a source of fat. So if we're going down that route, we just got to be a bit more savvy with what we're putting in. But things like corn and those type of things are fine. And then you can also supplement with, say, a whey protein product or a vegan protein powder to get more protein in. Which are quite kind of low calorie options to get them in. So that's another way of getting more protein in your diet. But yeah, protein's important. That's why we need it. Any myths around kind of kidneys and stuff like that, don't stress.
And it makes a massive difference as well if you've not done it. Like if people are having like a low, all the stuff Sam's talking about, like it makes a noticeable difference. It's not something that just happens behind the scenes. But say when people come in and they're like binging on a lot of like crisps and chocolate and sweet and high salt foods and stuff, it's like when they do up the protein level, they do notice that difference, don't they? In terms of like, well, I just don't want to eat as much shit as I used to.
Don't want to eat as much shit. Yeah,
it works, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course it does.
Works.
Of course it does.
Andy Pick or Christian?
Go Pick first.
Right. So Andy Pick asks, if you're offsetting multiple weekend beers by doing a lower calorie deficit earlier in the week, is there a best time to eat on a lower cal day in relation to a class? I.e., should I have a meal a couple of hours before a class?
Cool. So, personal preference. Some people can train quite fasted and feel like they're okay. I personally can't. So yeah, something before a session, an hour or two before, so I've got enough time to digest it, would be fine. Or if it's quite close to a session, something that's like a bit of a carbohydrate kick, like a banana or Rice Krispies is my go-to, but something that doesn't sit heavy but you can eat right before. That would work.
It's almost two questions, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of two questions. So it's personal preference in terms of what you're eating before. And the other side of it as well is, it depends on how many days as well you're training. So without squirreling you too much, which is easy for me to do, if you've had a few beers on the weekend and you're training for, say, 3 days that week, there's another 2 days, say, within the week, the weekdays before the next weekend, where you could go maybe a little bit lower calorie. So you go in almost having 2 low calorie days, and then your training days could be maybe moderate calorie days rather than them all being low, so that might offset the deficit a little bit for the weekend. And bear in mind as well, and we try and talk about this, maintenance is important. So you might hit maintenance that week because you've had some beers on the weekend. That's not a negative, that's not regressing, it's not going backwards. It just means that, again, when we talk about our 6-month, 12-month long-term objectives, if we've not got a time-sensitive goal, then maintenance is okay. So you might not actually need to drop your calories as low as you think to achieve maintenance. If you're happy, I've had a good few beers on that weekend. If it's a regular thing, then it might be something you need to consider adjusting for. And the last one, this is a squirrely one, I like this one.
Christian Horton.
I've made notes on this one.
That's a good one. Am I right?
No.
No. End of life for you. You're never right. Am I right in thinking that when you lose fat, empty fat cells remain? If so,
Yes.
when you put fat back on, does it fill original fat cells or make new cells? I'm wondering if, when you fluctuate weight, you would gain more empty fat cells over time and make it harder to achieve definition.
Great question, first of all. Now, first question is, you are right. So, now we have a certain number of fat cells, and those cells store fat. Now, at a point when that becomes a chronic thing, or we gain fat, we can, once we exceed our storage capabilities of what we've got currently, then we will gain new fat cells. When we then lose fat, or drop body fat, we don't ever lose those fat cells. So the one thing to say is that, and this is why I think it should be taught earlier on in life, is one way to avoid that is to don't get overweight in the first place. However, a lot of people get to that point and then lose fat, which is cool, but you remain, your old fat cells, or the fat cells you've gained, stay. So you don't lose fat cells, they just shrink or don't hold as much fat in them. So you might gain fat cells by putting it on, you keep those fat cells, then they don't go. Now, when people then regain weight, it's not necessarily easier, so that makes people think that, oh, well, it must be harder for me to, you know, I've put weight on and I lost it and then I can't keep it off. Our weight and our body fat, our body composition, how much body fat we hold, will be dictated by our energy intake. The reason people regain weight is because they revert back and they consume more calories and likely move less, and their energy balance goes into a surplus, and that's how we gain body fat. Regardless of how many fat cells we got, it still boils down to that kind of first basic rule of calories in, calories out. However, it is possible for, if somebody was to lose weight, so Christian, here's a good example, right? You've lost a lot of weight. So let's say you've lost 4 stone or whatever he's lost, I don't know what it is, it's quite a bit. Let's say you weigh 80 kilos now. Let's say you've got a twin and they've always been 80 kilos.
I think he lost that off his head.
Yeah, big potato head. Right, so Christian is a good example. Christian's lost a lot of weight, okay, and he does a really good job of maintaining that weight loss and a fat loss. Right, couple of things to consider. If someone is 80 kilos and they've always been 80 kilos their whole adult life, and then someone used to be 100 kilos and they're now 80 kilos, the person who's had to lose the weight, there is a chance that their resting energy expenditure might be slightly less because they've had to lose that weight. There's nothing you can do about that. Again, it boils back to the fat cell question of don't get overweight in the first place. Unfortunately, that's can't go back in time. So, but we're only talking around 150 calories a day. So it's not a massive difference, but people who have had to diet to lose weight will have a slightly lower metabolic rate at rest than somebody who has never had to do it. The biggest difference is activity level. So when people diet, what they do is they might not notice it, but they move less. So their non-exercise activity thermogenesis reduces. This is called adaptive thermogenesis, where we just move less. Now, not necessarily exercise, it's more things like fidgeting, staying still. Like your body will do what it can to bring that down. And that can be up to kind of 400 plus calories a day difference. And that does make a big difference. That's why, to maintain body composition, having a step target's quite good, and our overall activity is probably more important than getting loads and loads of more gym sessions in, say. So it's really important to just stay active in general if we want to maintain weight, especially if we're up our calories towards maintenance. The one thing with fat cells, I'm not getting too deep into it because I can, is that they release a hormone called leptin, which regulates hunger. That's what makes us hungry, all right? We've got leptin and ghrelin, which regulate our appetite. That comes from fat cells. So it can potentially, if we've got more fat cells, it might make that harder to adhere to our energy requirements. But it will still boil down to our ability to adhere to those energy requirements will dictate whether we gain weight or lose weight. It's not that having more fat cells means that if you eat the same amount of calories, you're not going to then gain them. That'll only happen if you go into a calorie surplus over time. That's how we gain weight. How we lose it is being a calorie deficit. How we maintain it is maintain energy balance. Hopefully that's not too squirrely. It all boils down to our basics with our energy intake. But it shouldn't make it harder or shouldn't make it impossible to become defined, having slightly more fat cells, because it's like having a 2-litre car, diesel car or whatever, and only putting a litre in. It's the deficit's important, not the size of the tank.
It's more likely cut down a few beers and a bit of pizza, innit? Which is the same for everyone.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly.
It's good to know the science, though, isn't it?
It is good to know the science, but the more I've learned over the years with the nutritionist type of stuff and learning, and the more nuanced and scientific it gets, it still all comes back round to doing the basics consistently well, and a lot of that's to do with our habits and routines and our environment,
and he's a shining example of someone that's done that and that does that, isn't it, Christian?
Yeah, and someone as well, like, so I spoke to Christian, he went like 2 years or 3 years or something stupid, tracked his food every single day. That's why he got the results he got. And then found a balance where he didn't need to track it all the time, because he's done that for long enough that he kind of gets what he's doing. But also, he's just gone back to tracking his food because he feels like, I just want to rein it in, I just see where I'm at. Because our habitual things can change over time. It's a transient process, what we do. So I think it's good to, even you guys watching this who've been here for years, if you've, this talks to us as well, sometimes we'll go times and months without tracking our food, looking at it, whatever, that's fine, and we feel okay. And then other times we feel like, okay, I wouldn't mind just seeing actually where I'm at right now. And
It's
that
like doing
helps.
an audit, isn't it, really? It's just like doing an audit.
Recalibrating.
Recalibrating, yeah.
So
That's good.
Boom. Hopefully that answers your questions without going too deep. I will put a few links underneath, Christian, that you can read. I was reading yesterday just to clarify what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Boom. Is there any questions underneath this actual video before we go? I don't think there is. I think just people saying hello. Let's just have a look. Sophie Harkin, love it. Love a science Q. 11. Who else we got here? Just checking your questions, team. I think that's the only ones I can see. What can't I see anymore?
What's Ollie saying there?
Nice. I think Sophie's eating. She said, "I'm watching this eating cookies." Anyway, right. If you're still awake, I hope you enjoyed it. All right. A little bit about the history of RMF Fitness.
Why are you using my mug?
Oh, is it? Oh, is that Finton?
This is Finton's mug. We started off with about 8 mugs in this gym, didn't we? Not long ago.
A couple of them are broken. There you are.
They're all broke.
Anymore. Carl, Christian. Oh, you're down there. Fucking hell. Awesome. Boom. There's me. I can see up my nose. Right, team. I think we're over now. We'll take it easy. See you.